Hi, my name is Jill Perry, and I'm with Madisonville Community College. And today we're going to go over perimeter. And when we talk of perimeter, that means it is the distance around an object. Now, if I was in class and I said this to a student, I would have to clarify that they could possibly think going around an object would look something like this. And I would want to clarify that when we go around a perimeter, we want to stay along the edges of an object. Because to find the correct amount of a perimeter, when we stay along the edges, it would be the shortest distance around an object. So today, we are going to find the perimeter of a rectangle. So when we are trying to find the perimeter of this rectangle, we need to understand that we must calculate the perimeter by adding together the length of all of the sides of the object. So we are adding all sides. And normally, when we are adding all sides, the correct square units or measures of units that we use can be in inches, centimeters, or miles. And today the measure of unit that we're going to use are inches. So if we calculate the perimeter of this rectangle, first of all, what we would need to do to find the correct distance is find a starting point. So let's just make this our starting point. So we wouldn't calculate it twice. So if we started at this corner and we would just walk along the edge of these inches, we would want to make sure we remember to only measure in inches. And to measure from one side to the next side, we see here that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. If we continue to turn to follow along the edge of the square, we see there are 2 inches going along the side, and then we will just turn and go along the bottom of the rectangle. And then we would turn again and go up to our starting point. So remember, our perimeter is the distance around the object. And then, after we see where the distance, we make sure we calculate it, then we're going to add all of the sides together. And since these are in inches, we are going to just add together all the inches together to find the total perimeter, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the perimeter for this rectangle is 12 inches. And when you're teaching elementary students, I would hope that they would understand that they could also look at this rectangle and see, because of the inches within the rectangle, that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 groups actually no, that is 12 inches of the perimeter. So let's go down here to this object. And remember, we need to find a starting point. So let's make this our starting point. And we will just walk along the edges. We're going to do a 1 inch measures of unit again. And we don't just continue to go down the line. We make sure we go along the object. And sometimes you may think, well, I already know what the perimeter is. That's easy. But until you actually calculate, it may be larger than what you think. And you just continue to follow along this irregular shape. And if we count all of the measures of units together, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there are 16 inches for your perimeter of this irregular shape. Okay, let's now look at area. So when talking about area, it's a little bit different. So when you talk about area, we're again going to use our square units. And area means it is the space inside of the object. So the perimeter is along the edges of the outside, but the area is the space inside of the object. And when we use the measures of units that we use for area, is always going to be square units. For area. So to find how many square, we're going to use 1 by 1 inch squares that I cut along here and made. And we want to find out how many square inches do I need to use to fill up this entire triangle. So I would begin to just place them within the triangle and continue to count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here we would see that there are 8 square units inside of this rectangle. One thing that I would want to clarify also with my students is if you separate your squares in any way, that it is going outside of your rectangle and it's not completely filling up the inside of the rectangle. So the square units must be closely placed together to completely fill up your rectangle space. Inside of the object. So let's go down here to this irregular shape. Well, before we move on, I would like to explain that what will happen is your students will begin to realize that if they look at the square units in this rectangle, they'll see that there are 4 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 2, which will equal to 8 square units. If you go along long ways this way, there are 1, 2 groups of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which will also equal 8. So they'll begin to get comfortable and realize how many square units it would take to fill up a space. Let's look at this object down here. So this is an irregular shape. So we want to find out we want to find the area. How many square units will it take to fill up this irregular shape? So the easiest way to do that would be to take your square units, your square inches, and begin to fill up your space. And then we will count to find out how many it will take to fill this up. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we see by just counting the square units that there are 12 square units in this irregular shape. So let's just say we want to find the area of a larger object. We know that it would be impractical to take all of these little square units and place them all around a room if we're trying to find the area of a room. So what we would begin to realize is it's easier to find, if you know the length of an object and the width of an object, it's easier to find the area of that object instead of placing all of these little square units in a larger object.